Okay, excellent. So here we are in somatic inquiry practice, and I'm going to start seated on a ball. I recommend you start in any way that is comfortable for you. We're going to start with some breath and sound, and then we'll probably move in different ways. And you can be anywhere in bed, on a chair, on the couch, on the floor, anything that feels right to you in your body, and that can change. So really what we're doing is tuning into sensation and noticing what feels good. Maybe it's very easy to notice what doesn't feel that good. So if you feel like your awareness is shooting into the painful area, see if you can find an equally pleasant area and let your awareness kind of move back and forth between those places. I want to work with the humming breath because it is the humming. When we hum and the air is coming through our nose, then we inhale back in. It increases the production of nitric oxide, which does a lot of good things for our vascular system and our heart and the lining of our vascular system, the little cells in there. It it adjusts them in a really nice way, but it also is a antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal. It's a natural internal healer, and it's also going to affect our vagus nerve, which is working on digestion, heartbeat, heart rate. It's a great down regulator, so coming into a calmer place. And I was just in California with Michael Taft and doing stuff at the Olympic, and Michael also has a channel on here on YouTube. And we were talking about ways that we can let go of the doer. And letting go of the doer through, for me, I really have found that through movement, where I'm allowing movement to happen. And so I'm just changing my spin, or the way that I talk about this a little bit, to let you come into a place where you can let go of the patterning in your body that says you should be a certain way, and let yourself sort of unwind and unfold and recapitulate the fluid nature of your body, so that you're coming back into the sort of wave-like capacity for sensation and movement. That's a lot of words. And I'm just going to add a few more. So in the work of Emily Conrad, the continuum work, which is where I get a lot of my inspiration, but it's also filtered through a lens of Laban movement analysis and many, many other practices that I do. There's the idea that our movement can be this sort of wave-like and tentacle movement. So we're inviting in this sort of octopus nature into our body to allow ourselves to experience ourselves in a different way. And when we start to let go of the personality, or I am Laura and my body is like this and I do this and this is how I should look and feel, but I allow it to kind of have more freedom, more free flow within my system, it starts to release some of these holding patterns that hold me in my state of this is me and this is just who I am. And it lets that kind of go. So there's more spaciousness. And also, sometimes we in movement work, in psychology work, there's a lot of talk about trauma. And sometimes people think, oh, these holding patterns are all there because of the trauma I experienced. And some of that is true, but also we've taken a lot of information in that is not trauma. It's just, oh, this is the cultural way people hold their bodies, or this is the family dynamic of, oh, we're very tall and erect here, or whatever it is. We have looked at people and we've taken in all this holding pattern stuff. Some of it is really served us to be who we are in the world. So what we're trying to do is offer that we can soften that holding pattern a little bit and have more capacity to be different in the world, so that we're not holding rigidly onto who we are, but we're creating spaciousness so that there's more possibility and less restriction and rigidity. So that is just a long intro as to what I'm thinking about and how it can work really well with a meditation practice, or just coming into your body in a different way, in a very gentle way. So everything, if you come up against a wall of self and it's too much, just back off. That's all. It's fine. And sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to let go of all this stuff and then I'm just going to be a noodle and I won't be able to be a person in the world. You will always be able to return to a lot of the patterning, right? It's not going to go away just because you soften something up a little bit. So always know that you can let go of the who you are-ness a little bit in these experiential inquiry sessions, and see what else is possible. Find that internal spaciousness. So that was a lot of talking. Let's go into the hum. So the hum, which is going to help produce this nitric oxide, which is such an excellent, wonderful thing on the physiological level, is just going to be with our mouth closed. We're going to hum for as long as it feels good. You're not trying to push it forever. And then when you're ready, inhale back in through your nose. Yeah, the pea pod has been very involved in my day so far. So here she is in all her glory. So just inhaling in and then I like to let my tongue move around a little bit in my mouth. So I'm attuning to the fluid nature of my tongue and how it's like got the capacity for waves, ripples, and that also tends to create a sound within my head that has this overtone dynamic. So that may or may not happen for you. Just notice if you're holding tension in any part of your body and allow yourself just tiny little micro movements to free it up. Sometimes we don't notice what's there until suddenly we're like, oh my God, I've been holding this stuff for so long. So maybe tiny little adjustments to let it go. And if you want to move bigger, move in any way that feels good. Going on with the humming. Eyes open or closed. You could also imagine that you're pouring the sound vibration through your body. And as the fluids and tissues vibrate together in this sound, they're creating new, maybe more harmonic or harmonious patterning within your body. Allowing yourself to take resting breaths anytime you need them. And if you find like the hum is too much and too intense, you could always switch to just a theta, a soft hiss exhale. I'm going to actually start doing that myself. I'm going to start throwing some theta breaths in there and then alternating it with some hums. And I'm going to really allow my body to do this micro movement so that it is freeing up the patterning, freeing up the sort of system of biomorphic tensegrity that's holding me in the lower ward, and let it have more fluidity, more ocean-like quality, more internal spaciousness. You could ask yourself, who's noticing or who is holding on, or any of those questions as you're in the inquiry. Taking resting breaths and allowing movement to bubble up anytime. Often in the continuum work, you're often moving after you make the sounds. But for me, I really like to mix them and be moving with the sounds. And you could imagine that the movement is as easy and light as airflow or as fluid as water. Yeah, however it feels good to you, or even like thinking about like how fire flickers upward so that we add some sort of elemental imagery to help us connect to sensation. So also earth, we could think of really connecting down or feeling the gravitational pull of the earth interacting with our body, right? As we notice. And if I sort of move around, it's partly the movement of the water in my body. My proprioception is partly aware, oh, there's gravity. Because of my fluid being, I can understand what that is. But when we tune to really finding sort of lightness and ease and flow, there is a effortlessness to the movement. And that's what we're working towards, finding movement that is effortless. It's not like, oh, I'm holding my arms out there for so long, they get so tired. It's more like, oh, they're so alive in this energetic relationship to movement that there's no exhaustion whatsoever. It's so efficient because we're moving with the flow of our lightness or our breath or the water in our body or just the energy within and around our system. Sounds kind of weird, but invite that in. And let's keep oohing and, or not oohing, let's keep humming and theta breathing for a little while longer, and then I'll add music. Feel free to get down on the floor, feel free to move in any way, or even be still and just tune into the growing and shrinking of the breath. Although for people who really have an evolved stillness practice, I invite you to start to let that mobilize. See what kind of crustifications are there when you're still that you can crack off when you're in motion. It can be very small, can be very gentle. And noticing what your preferences are in this moment for movement. Like I'm finding these spirals in my hands and wrists, but also this really lightness, which has a very airy quality. And then a sort of fluid flow quality. So there's an air and water quality happening in my sensation, in my awareness. It's not that you need to name it, but sometimes it's helpful to go, oh, this is like a somatic snapshot of something. Oh, it feels a certain way within this somatic practice, which is just consciousness entering the body and noticing without being told that it has to do it this way or that way. There's no right and wrong here. We're just opening to possibility. And it can change. The qualities can change at any time. I spend a lot of time just in my normal life doing sort of free flow hand movements just to keep the tension from locking into them. So I know we all spend times on computers and cell phones. Like often when I'm eating, I just have one hand that's kind of like doing a flow. Or if I'm watching TV or anything like that, watching Netflix, I'm watching Physical 100 and letting my body flow. Right? We're always as long as we're alive in our body. And so every moment is a moment to renegotiate the relationship we have with ourselves. Or let go of something that's holding us back. Just bringing body parts online or bringing sensation online in a very gentle, loving manner. With curiosity. What's it like in this space that I'm moving in? And what's it like in this space in my body? And what if I slow down or make something smaller? Or what if I speed up and make something bigger, or any variety pack of those things? I'm going to add music and we'll just continue. This will be the music of, actually, we're going to use Anthony's music first. So it is Jonas Maximus. This is this flute piece that he made a while ago that we've used a bunch in my dance company. But then that's going to go into Jeff Gersh afterwards. So Anthony into Jeff Gersh. If you can find the ripples and waves of movement as fluid moves through your body, maybe imagining that you're expressing the internal like pathways of your vascular system. If you feel like you've found a pathway that you're really traveling along, it's very familiar. See if you can change it to something else. Keep moving into new territory if that feels okay. That is where the change in the pattern is. It's in the unfamiliar. You could also imagine that inside the container of your skin, within the outside, the surrounding container of your skin, everything has the chance to sort of float and be suspended. So it's not like effortful, it's just there. You don't have to hold your organs in the right places. And even like the blood pressure, the pressure systems of movement within our body are doing just what they need to do. And if we can soften ourselves so that that pressure isn't building and building, but it's softening and softening, but there's enough to get it moving, that things are moving. Just thinking of blood pressure along the lines of doing that humming breath. The humming breath is going to, in a perfect world, help lower your blood pressure. And then the blood that it's sending through the body has these qualities of, from the nitric oxide, of antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. So through our movement, we can think of the blood traveling through our body, but getting out to those very distal edges, our fingertips and toes, the edges of our body, so that we're getting this core distal relationship of nourishment, life energy, moving through and squishing all the way out to the edges, and then coming back to center, or coming back to the heart. And we can think of these holding patterns sort of as tensions in our body, but they're also sort of the way that our fascia has learned to form, the organ of form that holds us the way that we are. So if we learn through movement to adjust those in a very gentle manner, we can have a little more spaciousness inside. Fascia is the organ of form, but it's also slow to make changes. If something happens quickly, it's usually an injury or something's been cut or something like that. So giving ourselves time to ease into our movement, ease into spaciousness within, letting go of these patterns through finding fluidity, right? Allowing the inner body to have this vitality where things can move easily. And if it comes into our body, it can come into our mind. If it comes into our mind, it can come into our body, right? This is all one expression, the body-mind. We can learn from the edges to the center, or from the center to the edges. One wholeness pattern of being in the world. Is there some idea about myself that I can soften to create more internal spaciousness or more ease of being? the way to new territory is to let go of the planning map. As soon as you feel like you know where you're going, try going somewhere else. And also, if you've been very sort of light and free flow for a while, maybe sometimes it feels good to like have more like strength in the movement or more push pull. Like that is allowed. We can also bring that in. It doesn't just have to all be light and fluffy. And sometimes your body does want to speed up. There's more to be engaged with. Sometimes slow is really nice. So listen in, allow freedom in your expression. Let yourself be surprised by what comes up in your movement. If you are out there in the TV lands, these are classes. There are people in the Zoom room. You could join in real time, or you are probably there in real time if you're watching, but you could join in the room. And we usually have some talk beforehand and after just to process. I'm going to turn the music down. And if you are out there watching and you have questions, now is the moment to type it in the chat before I close off the YouTube. And the other thing is just take a few minutes in the silence of your own experience to let yourself process. It may be in stillness, it may be in movement, anything that feels good to you. I'm going to get back up on my ball. Yeah, allowing stillness as a place of processing. Although for many people, there's still too much, there's still so much of the time that there's not any extra processing and stillness. So it might be that you're processing in movement, and however it works, right? I think it's the thing that we're not given much time for these days is processing. I still feel like I'm really processing this trip to California that I just had, and processing it on so many levels, on the physical level of being in a totally different environment and all the things that happened, so many levels. And another thing to say is that I am very good at being verbal while I am in these experiences, but for some people it's very nonverbal, and that is fine. All right, I am going to close it out. So any